I'm going to do something that's unique. I don't think it's ever been done before. I'm going to be shutting down Muhammad tonight and the Quran tonight and Mecca.
Mecca is still standing, the Quran still being recited, and salutations and blessings are still being sent upon Muhammad, peace be upon him, at all times. But those words boldly spoken last year are the perfect representation of J. Smith, and the huge audience and its applause, the only reason why he keeps humiliating himself. J. Smith, a well-known critic of Islam, has been a prominent figure in the realm of anti-Muslim activism for several decades, which is shocking and tells a lot about Christian missionaries and those who listen to them. He has dedicated his life to exposing the perceived flaws and inconsistencies of Islam, and he does so, according to him, because he loves Muslims.
I love these Muslims. They're my favorite people. I've worked with them for 40 years. I wouldn't be wasting my time if I didn't love them. I want them to know you. And the only way I can do that is to bring them back to you.
By the way he does so is by humiliating himself and shamelessly lying to his audience. For example, one of his most famous claims is that the Quran is not even 100 years old.
How many people are older or were living in 1985? Just raise your hands. That means every one of you who's raising your hand is now older than the Quran. Oh boy, that must make you feel old.
A crazy claim that isn't even worth being dealt with, but still has been refuted either way. But he adds on to it, putting forward a burlesque conspiracy theory where all the copies of the Quran were sunk in the Nile as a way to hide the truth.
They took all the other Qurans that were different than Hafs. They took it out into a boat and they sank them in the Nile. They took all the other Qurans that were different than Hafs. They took it out into a boat and they sank them in the Nile.
Oh.
You haven't heard this before either.
No. We need to go down. We need to do some
dives. They're still there.
We need to do some dives.
So don't waste your time. We have 10 of them right here. We've already found 30.
A theory that completely omits the millions of people who have memorized the Quran. More than that, he even delves into historical revisionism, supporting views that our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, a man known throughout the world and so well known that even some of his daily habits are known to us, did not exist, claiming at the same time that the city of Mecca is fictional.
So let's start with the truth about now the third area, number C, and this is Muhammad himself. The problems with Muhammad. If this is wrong, then everything comes crashing down. Just like Mecca. We shut down Mecca this morning. Once you take away Mecca, you could take away from Muhammad or the Quran from Mecca. Because there may be a Quran, there may be a Muhammad, but he's not from Mecca. If he's not from Mecca, it's not Islamic. All right? And that's why it's important that we take each one of these three legs and shut each one down subsequently.
Is this the man that was going to put an end to Islam? Every single one of his theories seems to be coming straight from a stand-up show. One of the most striking aspects of Smith's approach is his reliance on outdated, discredited, or fabricated sources. He frequently cites works by Orientalist scholars from the 19th and early 20th centuries, whose views on Islam are now widely recognized as biased and inaccurate. He also draws upon the writings of contemporary anti-Muslim polemicists, who claims have been thoroughly debunked by reputable scholars and experts.
Because he will be killed for what he has found. He decided to do what Gunther Luligen did, but he decided to look at the dark passages. 25% of the Quran no one understands. Not even the scholars understand it. A quarter of the Quran, even the scholars don't understand it.
Nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source? Furthermore, Smith has been known to cherry-pick verses from the Quran and Hadith, taking them out of context to create a misleading narrative about Islam. He often ignores the complexities and nuances of Islamic theology and jurisprudence, reducing the faith to simplistic and inaccurate caricatures. This approach not only betrays a fundamental lack of understanding of Islam, the religion he claims to have been studying for decades, but also demonstrates a willingness to manipulate and distort information to suit his agenda.
They're not even aware of this verse. The vast majority of Muslims, whenever I bring this up, the first thing asking me this question, because your Quran is very clear that Allah can have a son. And it says, I'll read it. Had Allah willed to take a son, he could have chosen whom he willed out of those whom he created, but glorified is he. He is Allah, the one, the irresistible. So the Quran already admits that Allah can have a son anytime he wants.
Wow, it's like a hypothetical. If he wanted to, he could.
He could.
He could if
the
he wanted
possibility
to.
exists in the Quran, so why are they even asking the question?
So what drives J. Smith's desperation to discredit Islam, even if it means relying on false information and discredited sources? One possible explanation is that his entire worldview and sense of purpose are deeply tied to his anti-Muslim activism. Having invested so heavily in this narrative, he may feel that any concession or acknowledgement of Islam's validity would undermine his life's work and threaten his sense of identity. J. Smith's desperation to attack Islam, even if it means relying on false information, is a troubling phenomenon that makes one wonder, how true can Christianity be when those who devote their life to defend it are openly relying on lies? His methods and arguments are fundamentally flawed, and his reliance on discredited sources and manipulative tactics undermines his credibility and integrity, but also the legitimacy of his faith as a whole.